On a rainy Tuesday, I died, broke, betrayed, and utterly alone, all because I once tried to save my sister's life. When my eyes snapped open to the harsh morning light of 2022, I smelled my mother's familiar scent. The expensive Jo Malone perfume drifting down the hallway told me the impossible had happened. I'd been given a second chance. 3 days from now, my sister Harper would undergo a highly controversial, unapproved cosmetic procedure in Miami, Indiana. My past life, I begged her not to go. And ended up stabbed in the back. This time, I'll help her pack and smile as she walks step by step toward her own ruin. The first thing I did was trace the texture of the sheets, those crisp Egyptian cotton sheets from my childhood bedroom in my parents' Connecticut estate. I sat up, heart hammering. I sat up in that cheap motel room, the sleeping bag a rough polyester blend, where I'd choked out my last painful breath. I sat up, heart pounding, a frantic drumbeat thudded against my ribs. I touched my face, my neck, my chest, no blood, no searing pain from a steering wheel crushing into my sternum. I scrambled out of bed and rushed to the vintage oak dresser mirror. Staring back at me was 24-year-old Camilla Hastings. My skin glowed, youthful, without the dark hollows and shadows left by years of betrayal and legal battles. The war would scar them soon enough. The phone on the nightstand buzzed, its screen lighting up. April 10, 2022. I dropped it like it had burned me. I was back to the week that upended my life and the lives of everyone in the Hastings family. Hell, in my past life, April 2022 was the month my sister Harper decided her natural beauty wasn't enough to secure her a reality TV deal with Bravo. She'd found a doctor, a Dr. Sterling, practicing out of a chic but unregulated Miami clinic called Aesthetic Harmony. She wanted a dramatic V-line jaw reduction, paired with an experimental vocal cord tweak to make her voice sound more nuanced. When I found out back then, I spent 3 sleepless nights researching Sterling. I uncovered buried malpractice suits, horrific nerve damage detailed on anonymous forums, and medical board warnings. I brought a folder full of evidence to a family dinner. I cried, I begged her not to do it, and because I made too much of a scene, Harper's parents, Robert and Caroline, forced her to cancel the trip. Harper never forgave me, convinced I'd sabotage her out of jealousy. Over the next 4 years, she systematically destroyed my life. She slept with my fiancé, Liam. She spread lies. She handed over some very compromising documents to my boss at Whitman and Gray Financial, getting me blacklisted from Wall Street. When I hit rock bottom and cut all ties with my parents, they chose to believe their fragile, golden child. My car skidded off a slick mountain road. As I lay bleeding in the wreckage, my phone buzzed with a text from Liam. Harper and I are getting married. Please don't contact us again. I gripped the edge of the dresser until my knuckles turned white. The reflection in the mirror was no longer just a young woman, but a predator waking from a long hibernation. Camilla, are you up? Mother's voice, sharp and impatient, drifted down from upstairs. Liam is coming for brunch on Sunday. Wear that blue Oscar de la Renta dress. You've been looking far too pale lately. I let out a cold, bitter laugh. Liam, the man who would look into my eyes and promise me forever, while simultaneously slipping into my sister's bedroom. In the foyer, I take a deep breath, forcing my expression into one of calm compliance. I won't be the hysterical, overprotective sister this time. I'll be the perfect, supportive sister. If Harper wants to leap into the abyss, I'll kindly hold the door open for her. The dining room smells of roast lamb and expensive Merlot. A Hastings family brunch is always a carefully orchestrated performance, complete with Rosenthal china and heavy sterling silver. I sit directly across from Liam. He looks exactly as he did in my memory of this day. Sun-kissed blonde hair perfectly styled, a crisp Ralph Lauren button-down shirt exuding effortless elegance, that boyish smile that once made my heart flutter. Looking at him now, my stomach churns. To my left is Harper, 22, stunning, with a presence that commands attention. She inherited our mother's high cheekbones and our father's piercing blue eyes, but it was never enough. It would never be enough for her. So Harper speaks, setting her wine glass down with theatrical flair. She leans forward, ensuring all eyes are on her. I have an announcement. Father, Robert, sets down his fork, beaming at her. What is it, sweetheart? Did that producer from the network call you back? Wonderful. Harper smiles triumphantly. I've booked my flights to Miami for Wednesday. I'm finally getting my lip contouring and vocal cords shaping with Dr. Sterling. It's the final step. Once I recover, I'll be flawless. The table falls silent. In my previous life, at this exact moment, I slammed my hand on the table, knocking over my water glass. I produced printed PDFs of Dr. Sterling's botched procedures and shouted that she was mutilating herself. This time, I slowly pick up my knife and cut a piece of lamb. I chew, swallow, and dab my mouth with a linen napkin. Miami is lovely in April, I say softly. My voice is perfectly even. You must be so excited, Harper. Harper blinks, her perfectly arched brows furrowing in confusion. Liam looks equally stunned. Even my mother pauses, her wine glass halfway to her lips. You're not going to give me a lecture about accepting my natural body? Harper asks, her tone defensive, as if she came armed for battle and found the field empty. Why would I do that? I smiled gently, meeting her eyes directly. It's your body, Harper. You've done your research. If Dr. Sterling is someone you trust to give you the confidence you need for your career, who am I to stand in your way? I only want you to be happy. Father booms a laugh, breaking the tension. Well said, Camilla. See, Caroline, I told you she was maturing. We should all support Harper's ambitions. Absolutely, Liam chimes in, reaching over to squeeze my hand. His touch makes me suppress a full-body shudder. Camilla's right. It's going to be great. Harper, I watch Liam's eyes linger for a fraction of a second too long on the neckline of Harper's dress. The hunger in his gaze is so obvious now. How did I ever miss it? Harper met his gaze, a secret, triumphant smile playing at the corner of her mouth. She thought she had won. She thought she had subdued her boring, sensible sister and kept her secret lover on a leash. Thank you, Camilla, Harper said, but her tone dripped with condescending contempt. I appreciate you finally stepping aside and letting me shine. I need someone to take me to JFK on Wednesday morning. I won't miss it, I replied, slowly sipping my Merlot. For the next 2 days, I played the role of the dutiful sister perfectly. I accompanied Harper shopping in Soho, helping her pick out a lightweight silk caskin dress from a boutique because, as she excitedly explained, I won't be able to pull tight shirts over my head for the next few weeks. I listened to her ramble on for hours about how the voice change surgery would make her sound like an angel, perfect for the recording studio. However, behind closed doors, I was ruthlessly securing my own safety net. I understood the dynamics of the Hastings family. When Harper inevitably ruined herself, my parents would need a scapegoat. They would drain their accounts, and mine too, since we had set up a family trust to cover her mistakes. On Tuesday afternoon, while Harper was getting a pre-surgery facial, I quietly slipped into a JP Morgan Chase branch in Manhattan, using legal loopholes I had learned during my time as a financial analyst. I separated my primary account from the Hastings Family Trust. I transferred my personal savings, stock portfolio, and my grandmother's inheritance to a private offshore account, a holding company. I set it up under the name of a newly registered LLC. As I walked out of the bank, the air felt lighter. Let the hurricane come. My house was built on stone. Wednesday morning, the sky was overcast and gray, threatening rain. I stood in the driveway of our Connecticut home, loading Harper's matching Louis Vuitton monogrammed luggage into the trunk of my Audi. Harper strode out the front door, wearing oversized Celine sunglasses and a trench coat. She was fully embodying the superstar she dreamed of becoming. My mother fluttered around her like a nervous moth. Call me as soon as you land. Until you arrive at Miami International, Caroline said anxiously, adjusting Harper's collar, and make sure the nurses give you're in a premium suite. I paid extra for the ocean view. Mom, don't worry, it's a high-end clinic, not a public hospital. Harper sighed, rolling her eyes. She turned to me. Let's go, Camilla. I can't be late. The drive to JFK was almost entirely silent. Harper spent the whole hour scrolling through Instagram, looking at heavily filtered model photos. She muttered under her breath about how she would look so much better than all of them. When we arrived at Terminal 4, I helped a porter unload her luggage. Harper turned to look at me, pushing her sunglasses down to meet my eyes. You know, I'm surprised you didn't try to sabotage this, she said, a cruel, knowing smile on her face. I thought for sure you'd tell mom and dad it was too dangerous. You usually can't stand me getting what I want. I looked at her carefully, studying her flawless jawline, her smooth, unblemished throat skin. I was utterly certain that this would be the last time I would see her like this. I've realized something recently, Harper, I said softly, my voice almost a whisper. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to let them make their own choices. Have a safe trip, she huffed, annoyed at failing to provoke a reaction from me, then turned and left. Whatever, see you in a week, I'll be the pretty one then. I got back in the car without looking back. The surgery was scheduled for Thursday at 9 a.m., and I didn't wait for things to unfold. On Wednesday evening, I invited Liam to my downtown apartment. He came, bringing a cheap bouquet of flowers from the grocery store. He seemed distracted. He probably wanted to text Harper and wish her luck. Liam, I said, not even bothering to put the flowers in a vase, I want to call off the engagement. He froze, his coat slipping halfway off his shoulders. What's wrong, Camilla? What are you talking about? I discreetly slipped off the diamond. He took the ring from my finger, a ring I now knew he bought with a loan from my father, and placed it on the kitchen island. I don't love you anymore, honestly. I think we've been drifting apart for a long time. It's over. Please leave your key on the counter. Camilla, are you crazy? Is it because of work? Are you stressed? He panicked, moving toward me. Losing his meal ticket suddenly felt all too real. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said, crossing my arms. My eyes were empty, showing none of the heartbreak I'd felt in my past life, only a cold numbness. If you don't leave, I'll call security. He stared at me, realizing I was serious. His face flushed with anger, his expression crumbling in an instant, and then he threw the keys onto the marble countertop. Fine, if you want to throw it all away, go ahead. You'll regret this, Camilla. No, I thought as the door slammed shut behind him. I really won't. The call came at 2:15 p.m. on Thursday. I was in my office at Whitman and Gray, reviewing quarterly earnings reports, when my phone rang. Caller ID, Mom, emergency. I waited for 3 rings before answering. Hello? What followed wasn't speech but a raw, guttural, pure, unadulterated scream of terror. It was my mother shrieking into the phone. Camilla, Camilla, oh my God, Caroline sobbed, her breathing so ragged I could barely make out her words. Mom, slow down, I said, my voice steady, my heartbeat slow and calm. What happened? It's Harper, she cried, her voice breaking over the speaker. The clinic in Miami, Dr. Sterling, they just called your father. Camilla, something went wrong. Something terrible happened in the operating room. What happened? I asked, my gaze drifting through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office to the bustling Manhattan streets below. During the surgery, they nicked an artery. My mother gasped, tears streaming down her face. She lost too much blood, went into cardiac arrest on the table, and the vocal cord surgery failed. They said, Camilla, the nerves are severely damaged, and she can't breathe on her own. They had to rush her to the emergency room at Jackson Memorial. The clinic doctors refused to speak to us. Your father is chartering a plane right now. You have to come with us. I closed my eyes. Memories from my past life whispered in my ears. Harper screaming at me, Liam mocking me, the cold steering wheel, and the rain. I'm sorry, Mom, I said calmly, leaning back in my leather chair, but I have a major merger file to finish. Tomorrow, I can't leave New York. The silence on the other end of the line was suffocating. What? Caroline whispered, shock momentarily overriding panic. Your sister is fighting for her life, her face, her career. She may never speak again. How can you talk about work? She made her choice. Mom, you supported her. I supported her. I replied coldly, I'll pray for her. Please keep me updated. I hung up and powered off my phone. The dominoes were finally beginning to fall, and I intended to enjoy watching them crash to the ground. The first 48 hours after the botched surgery were a masterclass in panic, though I only experienced it secondhand, through the frantic, incoherent voicemails left on my phone. I listened to them while sipping Earl Grey in my sunny, quiet apartment. Harper had encountered more than minor complications. Dr. Sterling, a man whose medical license had apparently been revoked in 2 states before opening a cash-only clinic, a clinic in Miami that, during an aggressive mandibular reduction, severed the marginal mandibular nerve. In a panicked rush to control the subsequent arterial bleed, he performed a vocal cord plication. The procedure failed so catastrophically that it left her vocal cords permanently scarred. By the time my parents finally got her back to New England, everything had changed. 2 weeks later, when she arrived at Hastings Manor via medical transport, the brutal reality hit the estate like a meteor. I visited her once, not out of guilt, but because I needed to see it to truly exorcise the lingering ghost of my former life. She was in the master suite of my parents' house, which had been converted into a sterile medical room smelling of antiseptic and despair. Harper was propped up on a mountain of pillows. The entire left side of her face was paralyzed, drooping, frozen in a permanent, pathetic half-sneer. White bandages wrapped around her neck, hiding the tracheotomy scar. When I walked in, her eyes, wide with fury, locked onto me. She tried to scream, but all that came out was a wet, rasping gurgle, the sound of dry leaves, rustling across concrete. "Don't try to talk, sweetheart," my mother Caroline fussed, dabbing at Harper's chin with a tissue. Caroline looked a decade older. Her usually impeccable blonde bob was frizzy, and dark circles were prominent under her eyes. Her eyes were a match for my old ones. "I brought orchids," I said calmly, placing the glass vase on the dresser. "What's the timeline the doctors are giving for reconstructive surgery?" My father Robert, who had been sitting in the corner staring into a glass of whiskey, asked. He stood up, his face was flushed, veins standing out on his neck. "The timeline is entirely dependent on capital," he snapped. Dr. Eris at Tin Hill says it will take at least 6 procedures to restore basic symmetry to her jaw and vocal cords. Umbilical cord blood, they need an experimental stem cell treatment, and because the initial surgery was a self-pay cosmetic disaster, none of it is covered by insurance. "What a shame," I said, smoothing the collar of my silk blouse. "But you'll manage, you always do," Robert said, taking a step toward me, scotch sloshing over the rim of his glass. "Camilla, I went to the bank yesterday to liquidate some assets from the family trust. To my surprise, I found that your half, nearly $3 million in liquid assets and blue-chip stocks, had been completely withdrawn and transferred to a blind LLC. "Yes," I said, meeting his furious gaze without blinking. "I exercised the severance clause. It's in the trust provisions. Dad, I just turned 24 last month. Legally, I have full autonomy over my share." "Your sister is disfigured," my mother shrieked, threw down her tissue, and whirled to face me. We need, round-the-clock care. We've sent lawyers after Dr. Sterling, who apparently fled to Costa Rica on a private charter. We need the money to." "You fixed her, then you stole her." "I didn't steal anything, Mom. I just secured what was mine." I kept my tone level, a stark contrast to her hysteria. "You and Dad each have half the trust, plus the deed to this house and the Hampton property. If you want to, you bankrupted yourselves to fix a mistake I begged all of you to stop me from making." I stopped myself from transitioning smoothly. "That was a mistake Harper chose to make. That was your choice. But you will not tank my financial future with you." Harper let out another pained shriek and hurled a plastic water cup at me. It bounced off my shoulder, harmlessly splattering the Persian rug. "Get out," Robert snarled, a trembling finger pointing toward the bedroom door. "If you turn your back on me, you are my family now, but you are not my daughter." I looked at the 3 of them from my past life. These were the people who had been my family, who had gaslit me, drained my bank accounts, and watched as I destroyed my career over Harper's claims of my jealousy, ruined her mental health. They had thrown me to the wolves. "Good luck with your surgery, Dad," I said softly. I turned and walked out, my heels clicking a steady rhythm on the hardwood. I didn't tell them the best part. That legal pursuit of the Dr. Sterling would become a black hole, I knew. Because I'd lived it. Sterling had his assets tucked away in offshore trusts that were notoriously difficult to police. My parents would spend hundreds of thousands, a fortune, on high-powered lawyers chasing a phantom case across borders, only to end up with nothing but mounting legal fees. The Hastings empire began its slow, painful decline, and I was completely untethered from it. 3 weeks after Harper returned from Miami, the dust settled, and the brutal new reality set in. To fund Harper's first reconstructive surgery, my parents put the Hampton house on the market. Meanwhile, My career at Whitman and Gray Financial was thriving, freed from the endless family drama and without Liam draining my energy. I finally closed the merger deal I'd been working on. I was promoted to senior analyst. I felt invincible, but I knew the past wasn't entirely done with me. Waiting for the rats to crawl out of the woodwork. It was a rainy Thursday evening. I was reviewing some portfolios at the Marble Island in my apartment when the intercom buzzed. The doorman's voice crackled through. "Ms. Hastings, a Mr. Liam Caldwell is here to see you. He says it's urgent." A slow, wicked smile spread across my face. "Right on time. Send him up," I replied. I walked to the console table in the foyer and subtly adjusted a decorative succulent, ensuring the lens of my discreet smart security camera had a perfect view of the living room. Then I poured myself a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon and opened the door. Liam stood outside. The hallway was soaked, damp from the rain. He looked miserable. His hair was a disheveled mess, and the expensive designer trench coat he wore, a birthday gift, was crumpled. In his hand, he held a bunch of soggy white roses. "Camilla," he said softly, looking at me with puppy dog eyes. "Thank God. I thought you wouldn't let me up. You have 5 minutes." "Liam, I'm busy," I said coldly, leaving the door ajar as I walked back to the kitchen island. He followed me inside, placing the wilted roses on the counter. He took a deep breath, running a hand through his damp hair. "I've been an idiot, a blind, stupid idiot. My life has been falling apart since you called off the engagement. I can't sleep. I can't focus at work. I realize now that I took you for granted." I took a slow sip of my wine. "Is that so?" "Yes." He took a step closer, reaching out to touch my hand. I pulled it away before he could make contact. "Camilla, you're the smartest, most beautiful woman I've ever known. I was drawn to you, that's why we felt a bit off. But these past few weeks, seeing your family, seeing what happened to Harper, it really made me rethink everything." "So it was her, Harper." I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. "Speaking of Harper, how is she? Have you visited her?" Liam's face twisted into an ugly expression. He glanced around, stepping further into the apartment and lowering his voice as if to ensure we were alone. "I went once, Camilla. It was a nightmare. She looks like a monster, angry, bitter. She spends all day writing vicious notes on a whiteboard, making demands." He let out a harsh, cruel laugh. "Your parents wanted me to sit there and hold her hand because I'm family, but honestly, I can't even stand to look at her. The thought of her makes me sick. She's completely ruined herself." His shallowness was staggering, utterly shameless. "In my past life, this man had carried on a months-long affair with my sister behind my back, completely captivated by her flawless looks and seductive charm. The moment she lost her beauty, she became a monster in his eyes." "That's a harsh thing to say about a girl you slept with," I said, my voice low and deadly, almost a whisper. Liam froze, his face paled instantly, turning sickly. The air in the room suddenly felt suffocating. "What?" he stammered, taking a step back. "Camilla, what are you talking about? I never saved anything." "Liam," I interrupted, slamming my wine glass down on the marble countertop with a sharp clink. I know about those nights you spent at the estate while I was working late. I know about the texts. I know you stayed with me for stability and the Hastings money, all while hiding your affair with my sister." He swallowed hard, his eyes darting toward the door as if calculating an escape route. "Camilla, you're being paranoid. Did someone tell you something?" "It's all lies. I don't need anyone to tell me anything." I saw the messages on her phone. "Before she left for Miami, you promised her you'd break up with me. After her surgery, you told her she was the only woman who ever made you feel truly alive." I stepped closer, backing him into a corner. The pitiful fear in his eyes was mesmerizing. "But she was brutally murdered later, wasn't she?" I sneered, my voice dripping with malice. Suddenly, the beautiful reality came flooding back. The TV mistress turned into a massive medical bill. Your boring, sensible fiancé cut off her trust fund and walked away, left you with nothing. So now, you're standing in my apartment, begging me to give your meal ticket back." "No," Liam pleaded, his voice choked. "Camilla, it wasn't like that. She chased me, threw herself at me. I never loved her. You have to believe me. She was just cheap thrills." "I love you, cheap thrills." I made sure my voice was clear and loud enough for the camera's microphone to pick up. You slept with my sister, and now she's paralyzed in the face, and you call her just cheap entertainment. Yes, because she was, Liam shouted, desperately trying to save himself. She's vain, she's selfish, and now she's hideously ugly. I don't want anything to do with her or your crazy parents. Please, Camilla, give me another chance. We can leave them all behind. I stared at him for a long time, silent. Then I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. I've already left them behind, Liam, I said softly. And I'm leaving you behind too. I walked to the door and pulled it open. Get out. He hesitated, realizing the trap had sprung wide open, gripped his throat. Camilla, please, I said. Get out, I commanded, my voice low and forceful. His voice echoed in the hallway. Before I call the police and have you banned, Liam, frustrated, humiliated, trembling all over, he grabbed his wet trench coat and almost ran out the door. I slammed it shut, then immediately walked over to the laptop, opened the Smart Home app, and downloaded the last 5 minutes of crisp, high-definition video. A few minutes later, I clipped the exact segment where Liam called Harper a monster. He admitted she was just a fling and said she was ugly. I attached the video file to an email, to Robert Hastings, Caroline Hastings, subject, message from Liam. I clicked send. By tomorrow morning, Liam Caldwell would not only be completely out of my life but also thoroughly expelled from the elite social circle my parents controlled. My father might be losing money, but he still had enough power to ensure that a mid-tier firm like Liam's would never find work in this city again. I poured myself another drink and walked over to the window, watching the rain wash over Manhattan's grimy streets. I had completely rid my life of the rot. Now, I could only watch as the Hastings empire self-destructed. The fallout from my email was swift and brutal, and on my end, there was no response. No angry calls from my father, no hysterical voicemails from my mother. The Hastings family PR machine, usually deployed to cover up scandals, instead turned its full firepower on Liam Caldwell. Through the tight-knit circles of Manhattan's financial world, I witnessed Liam's execution in real time. My father might be severely cash-strapped, but his network was still formidable. Liam had been a junior portfolio manager at Crestview Capital, a mid-sized wealth management firm whose managing partner happened to play golf with Robert Hastings every other Sunday at Shinnecock Hills. On Monday afternoon, my LinkedIn feed showed a notification that Liam had updated his profile. The prestigious Crestview name was gone, replaced by the humiliating green, open to work, banner. Over the next few weeks, I received a flood of blocked calls from unknown numbers and pitiful pleading texts. Camilla, please, I've been blacklisted. I can't even get an interview for a retail banking job. Your father ruined me. Please, get him to back off. I deleted every post without even reading the first sentence. Meanwhile, the financial bleeding at Hastings Manor was escalating from a trickle to a full-blown hemorrhage. My father hired Peter Harrison from the powerhouse firm Harrison & Lowe, an aggressive litigator known for going after Dr. Sterling. Harrison's rate was $1,200 an hour. By June, Harrison's private investigators discovered that Dr. Sterling's Miami clinic was actually owned by a shell company registered in the British Virgin Islands, which in turn was owned by a holding company in Cyprus. Sterling himself had vanished like a ghost, sipping mojitos in some country with no extradition treaty, completely untouchable by U.S. civil courts. My parents had already spent $300,000 on legal and investigative fees. Peter Harrison formally advised them to drop the lawsuit. There was simply no one left to sue, with the legal avenue closed. The brutal reality of Harper's medical bills began to hit. Dr. Heiress of Tin Mountain was a miracle worker, but his miracles came out of pocket. The first 2 reconstructive surgeries, reconnecting the shattered nerves in Harper's jaw, cost nearly $400,000. The experimental stem cell injection therapy to repair her damaged vocal cords, not FDA approved, had to be done at a private clinic in Switzerland. That was another $500,000. The Hampton House in East Hampton, my mother's social crown jewel, was quietly listed for sale to avoid gossip column attention. Needing a cash deal within 30 days, they sold it for $3 million below appraisal to a cold-blooded tech billionaire. Utterly indifferent to their desperation, but it wasn't just money that was burning. In late July, the final storm broke over the Connecticut estate. I heard it from Maria, the family's longtime housekeeper who practically raised me and who still texted me updates on the sly. According to Maria, my mother, in a stunning lapse of tech savvy, had printed out the emails Liam and I had exchanged. She'd attached the video because she wanted to show her therapist. She left the printouts of Liam's video on the kitchen island. Harper found them, read in his own words about the man she destroyed her sister's engagement for, the man who called her an ugly monster. That cheap thrill shattered Harper's last fragile tether to reality. Maria texted me in a panic from the pantry, saying Harper had completely lost it. She took a heavy brass fireplace poker and methodically smashed my mother's prized authentic Ming vase in the foyer. She shattered the custom stained glass windows in the conservatory. When my parents tried to restrain her, Harper fought back, emitting a horrifying, wet, rasping shriek that sounded like a dying animal. She locked herself in her bedroom and refused to come out for 3 days and 3 nights. The family fell apart, yet I was doing just fine. In August, I sat in the corner office of Whitman and Gray law firm, meticulously reviewing a lucrative acquisition deal. When my assistant buzzed the intercom, a client from a pharmaceutical company appeared. "Ms. Hastings, your father is here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's a family emergency." I paused, my pen hovering over a contract. I smiled, "Let him in, Sarah." When the frosted glass door opened, I barely recognized the man who walked in. Robert Hastings had aged 20 years in just 4 months. The Italian-tailored suits that once fit his broad shoulders perfectly now hung loose and ill-fitting. His usually immaculate silver hair had thinned, his eyes were bloodshot, and dark circles of exhaustion surrounded them. He no longer commanded the room as he once did. He looked like a beggar who had wandered into a palace. "Dad," I said, "not." I rose from behind my desk. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" "I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. He swallowed hard, walked over to my mahogany desk, and gripped the edge tightly with both hands. "Camilla, you look well." "I'm fine," I replied calmly. "What do you want?" "Robert." He flinched at the sound of his name. "We're facing a liquidity crisis. The house in the Hamptons has been sold, but the capital gains tax and the immediate transfer to Dr. Heiress drained her savings. Harper needs a 4th surgery next. It will take a month to reconstruct the bone structure of her jaw. If we wait, the scar tissue will calcify, leading to paralysis. It will be permanent." He took a shaky breath, abandoning the last shred of his pride entirely. "I need a $1.5 million bridge loan, just enough to get us through until the company's 4th quarter dividends are paid out. I'll pay it back, an 8% annual interest rate. Please, Camilla, she's your sister." I leaned back in my ergonomic leather chair, crossing my arms over my chest. I looked at the man before me, who in a past life had looked me in the eye and told me I was a resentful, jealous failure, because I couldn't be happy for Harper. She deserved to be cast out of the family. I said, "A bridge loan implies you have collateral to cover the gap." My tone was cold, devoid of any warmth. "I looked up your company's public filings this morning out of pure curiosity. Hastings Logistics is overleveraged. You heavily mortgaged your own stock to pay for Harper's treatments in Switzerland. If your 4th quarter earnings fall short, even by just 3% of the forecast, the board will force you out to satisfy the creditors." He stared at me, dumbfounded, as if I were speaking a foreign language. "How could this be? How do you know all this?" "It's my job to know when a sinking ship starts taking on water," I replied coolly. "You don't have, Dad, the money. You're definitely out of money in the 4th quarter. You're asking me to throw $1.5 million into a fire. She'll be permanently disfigured," he cried, his voice hoarse with desperation and pity. "Don't you have a heart? She can't speak and can barely eat solid food. That was her choice, and you funded it," I said, my tone as hard as diamond. "I saw this coming, which is why I kept my assets protected." "I won't fund your crime, Robert. The answer is no." He stood there for a long time, his hands trembling, his eyes brimming with tears of helplessness. He had no more chips left. I had completely bested him. "You're a monster, Camilla," he whispered. "No," I said with a smile, turning back to my paperwork. "I'm just a very good analyst. Ask Sarah to validate your parking pass on your way out." October in New York City brought a crisp, biting chill. It was the season of high society galas, When the super-rich descended from their summer homes for an endless round of parties, the autumn charity ball circuit, in my previous life, October 2022 was the month I filed for bankruptcy. It was the same month Liam and Harper publicly announced their engagement, and I spent my nights crying on the floor of a studio apartment in Queens. In this life, October was my coronation. My firm, Whitman and Gray, had purchased 2 VIP tables at the annual Children's Medical Research Foundation charity dinner at the Waldorf Astoria, because just the week before, I had single-handedly closed a $60 million merger and acquisition deal. Victoria Kensington, the firm's senior partner, had gifted me the tickets. I wore a custom Carolina Herrera gown. Deep emerald silk clung to every curve before cascading into a magnificent train. My hair was styled in vintage Hollywood waves, and around my neck was a diamond collar I'd bought myself to celebrate the promotion. My date for the evening was Sebastian Reed, a sharp, brilliant vice president at a rival private equity firm. We weren't dating, but we both recognized the mutual benefit of being seen together. He was a shark, and I'd recently developed a taste for blood. The ballroom of the historic Waldorf Astoria was a masterclass in opulence. Crystal chandeliers glittered, towering white hydrangeas bloomed, and the low, rich hum of clinking champagne flutes filled the air. "You look dangerous tonight, Camilla," Sebastian murmured, handing me a glass of Dom Perignon as we navigated the crowded room. "Half the men in here are staring at you, and the other half are terrified of you." "Good," I replied, taking a sip. "Fear pays better than affection these days." We made the rounds, exchanging pleasantries with senators, hedge fund managers, and media moguls. My eyes kept drifting to the entrance. I knew they would come. Robert Hastings was desperate. His company was teetering on the brink of collapse, and a grand gala like this was his last resort. He had few places left to schmooze private investors, to beg for a capital infusion. At 8:30 p.m., they arrived. The entrance of the Hastings family sent a palpable, undeniable ripple through the ballroom. It wasn't the hushed, admiring whispers that used to follow my mother's perfectly coiffed hair, but anxious, pitying sighs, whispers of scandal. My parents looked like ghosts. Caroline wore a black Valentino dress from 3 seasons ago, her posture rigid, her eyes darting nervously. She was acutely aware of the many people deliberately avoiding her gaze. Robert looked haggard, a strained, pained smile plastered on his face as he desperately tried to catch the eye of a venture capitalist across the room. But the most striking was Harper. She had insisted on coming. She couldn't bear to be out of the spotlight, even if it burned her. She wore a simple black gown, but the lower half of her face was completely obscured by a custom black silk medical mask, tied behind her neck. The design of this mask aims to showcase avant-garde fashion, but everyone in the room knows the truth. They know the surgery failed. They know he is paralyzed. Beneath the silk, the left side of her face droops, as if scarred by a stroke, forever frozen in that slack expression. "My God," Sebastian whispered, leaning close to my ear. "Are those your parents and sister?" "Unfortunately," I said expressionlessly. "I've heard the rumors, but my God, she looks just like the Phantom of the Opera." "What a tragedy, Sebastian. Your actions have consequences." "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom." I handed him my wine glass and glided through the ballroom. My timing was perfect. I saw Harper suddenly turn and almost run toward the ladies' lounge, following a group of socialites. They openly turned their backs on her. I pushed open the heavy oak door of the luxurious washroom. The air was filled with the scent of expensive perfume and fresh lilies. Harper stood by the marble sink, her hands gripping the edge of the counter tightly, her shoulders heaving as she gasped silently for breath. I walked over to the sink. I stood beside her, turned on the golden faucet, and slowly began washing my hands. Harper jerked her head toward me. Her blue eyes widened, the only part of her face still visible outside the black silk mask. They were bloodshot, filled with deep sorrow and a boiling, pure hatred. Trembling, she reached out and tore off the silk mask, draping it around her neck. Though she had been prepared, the sight was shocking. I remembered that the right side of her face was the beautiful Harper, while the left side was a horrifying mess, the flesh sagging, slack, with a permanently drooping mouth, her cheeks sunken from excessive bone shaving, nerves destroyed. A thick, deep purple scar from a tracheotomy marked her throat. She opened her mouth. The sound that emerged was chilling, a wet, hoarse, mechanical rasp, like the grating of two pieces of sandpaper. She struggled to force out the words. You knew, she gasped, spittle flying from her drooping lips. You set me up. I slowly dried my hands with a monogrammed linen towel. Harper, I arranged all of this. You booked the flight tickets yourself, and you found the doctor yourself. I told you I supported your autonomy. How could this be considered an arrangement, Liam? She rasped, tears finally spilling from her lashes, smudging her heavy makeup. Makeup, the video you orchestrated. I planned for a weak man to show his true colors. I corrected her gently, turning to face her. I merely recorded what he was best at, preserving his own skin. It's not my fault he found your new face ugly. It's not my fault you slept with my fiancé. Harper flinched as if I had struck her. She took a step back, bumping into the marble counter. I'm still alive. Harper, I whispered, taking a step forward. I moved closer, invading her space until she could smell the champagne on my breath. In another world, you took everything from me. You took my career, my dignity, and my future. You laughed at me as I lay bleeding on the sidewalk. You thought you were beautiful and the world belonged to you. Her eyes darted back and forth, filled with fear. She thought I was speaking metaphorically. She had no idea how literal my words were. But look at you now, I continued softly, with a tone of vengeance. Your beauty is gone. They say you're a monster, Liam. Dad nearly bankrupted the family trying to fix you, and Mom can't even look at you without needing Xanax. You want everyone's attention. You want all eyes on you. I gestured toward the heavy oak door leading back to the ballroom. They're all watching. Harper, go on out. Let them see the masterpiece you've created. I pulled the silk mask down from around her neck and gently hooked it back over her ears, covering half her ruined face. I gave her cheek a light pat. Enjoy the party. I smiled, turned, and walked out of the bathroom, leaving her alone with the mirror. I walked back into the glittering ballroom, took Sebastian's arm, and danced the night away. I'd never felt lighter. The Waldorf History Tour had been my last, desperate play. The Hastings family's social standing, after that night, it didn't just decline, it went into freefall. By mid-November, my father's financial house of cards collapsed completely. The empire he'd built his entire life began to implode with violent force. Whispers swirled about his desperate pleas at the gala, successfully securing a seat on the board of Hastings Logistics. Sharks can smell blood in the water from miles away, and David Carmichael, the board's ruthless chairman, was no exception. Just as my father's personal bankruptcy was about to drag the entire company down, the Q4 earnings were leaked. I was 2 weeks out from the leak. Early projections had been off, catastrophically off, a 7% variance. Carmichael called for a vote of no confidence. My father had over-leveraged his own founders' shares to pay for Harper's third reconstructive surgery with Dr. Eris. After the stock plummeted, the margin calls came. Robert Hastings was forced out of the company he'd built from the ground up. He was fired for a hastily determined breach of fiduciary duty. With no income and his collateral exhausted, the banks came for his Connecticut estate. I heard about the foreclosure from Brenda Collins, a high-end realtor at Sotheby's I occasionally used for property valuations. She called me at the end of January, her voice hushed with Upper East Side gossip. Camilla, darling, it's Brenda, she whispered into the phone. I thought you should know. The bank just listed your parents' estate for auction. It was a distressed sale. They had 30 days to vacate. I'd never seen Robert look so defeated. Thanks for the heads up, Brenda. I'll handle it smoothly. Tell me who buys it. I might want to buy that antique chandelier in the dining room from the new owners. 2 days later, the front desk security at my luxury high-rise buzzed my intercom. My mother was downstairs. She refused to leave the lobby. I had the concierge send her up. It was time to end things with Caroline Hastings for good. The woman standing in my hallway when I opened the door was a stranger, the Caroline I'd known in my youth, the one in Chanel suits who smelled of bespoke Joe Malone, was gone. Her blonde hair was long overdue for a touch-up, showing an inch of stark gray at the roots. She wore a heavy, unbuttoned wool coat, and her hands were shaking. The scent coming off her wasn't expensive perfume, but the sharp, pungent smell of cheap Pinot Grigio, and a deep, suffocating panic. Mom, I said, leaning against the doorframe. I made no move to let her in. To what do I owe the pleasure? She didn't try to hug me, she just stared at me, her eyes bloodshot, her expression terrified. They're taking the house, Camilla, the bank is taking it too, we have nowhere to go, your father. He can't handle this, I had a mild angina attack yesterday, I heard. About the auction, I replied, my tone devoid of any pity, I suppose you'll have to find a place to rent. There are some very affordable apartments in Queens. Mother let out a choked sob, her hands covering her face. How can you be like this, so cold? She's your sister, we're your parents, we gave you everything, and you've always looked down on us, standing by and watching, we're bleeding to death. She dropped her hands, her expression suddenly pained and desperate. I know what you did, Harper. Told me what you said to her at the dinner party. You knew this would happen, you knew Liam was, you deliberately sent her to Miami, knowing Dr. Sterling was a butcher, letting her walk to her doom. She didn't pack her bags, Mom, I lowered my voice, dangerously calm. I didn't hand the scalpel to the surgeon. For 24 years, you and Dad treated me like a secondary asset. You indulged Harper's every narcissistic whim. Recalling my past, I couldn't help but let out a bitter smile. Let's just say, I knew what would happen if I tried to stop her. She would definitely say I was jealous, you would take her side, and she would find a way to ruin my life out of spite. You're insane, Caroline said, I whispered, taking a step back as if I were a monster. You set your own sister on fire just to watch her burn. No, I corrected her. My gaze met hers. Harper lit herself on fire. I just decided not to set myself on fire to keep her warm, and Mom, you should have done the same, but you couldn't. Help yourself, could you? You chose your favorite daughter, you just chose, wrong. Caroline raised her hand and slapped me desperately and violently. I caught her wrist mid-air, my grip was like iron, she gasped, trying to pull away, but I held her tightly, letting her fully feel the physical and emotional impact. I was completely in control of her at that moment. Don't touch me again, I whispered, yanking her arm away as if she were diseased. The Hastings family trust is empty, the inheritance is gone, Harper's face is now the ruins of her vanity. You have nothing left, go home and pack your bags, Caroline, we're done here. I took a step back and closed the heavy oak door, right in her face. I stood in the hallway, listening to her choked, painful sobs echoing down the corridor. It took 10 minutes before I heard the elevator ding, taking her down. She was gone from my life forever. 2 years later, in the spring of 2024, the rain in New York City always feels different. For me, it does now. In my past life, rain was the backdrop to my death, slick asphalt, the crush of metal, a cold end. But today, the rain washing over the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office feels like a baptism. At 26, I became the youngest junior partner in the history of Whitman and Gray. My overseas investments have tripled in value, and I just bought a breathtaking penthouse in Tribeca. Sebastian Reed and I are now officially a power couple, our ambition and edge both feared and admired by Manhattan's elite. I won, the game is over, the board cleared. I rarely think of the shadows of the past, but the universe has its own plans. What a strange full-circle moment. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Sebastian and I were flying to London for a corporate acquisition. We were walking through the bustling Delta Terminal 1 at JFK. The terminal was packed, filled with weary travelers and harried airline staff dealing with weather delays. I'll grab us some coffee before we head to the lounge, Sebastian said, kissing my cheek before veering into an upscale espresso bar. I stood near a row of kiosks, checking my phone, when a voice caught my attention. It was a man profusely apologizing to an irate businessman over an oversold flight. I'm so sorry, sir, I can offer you a hotel voucher for tonight, but the next available flight isn't until tomorrow morning, the man stammered. I looked up. Liam Caldwell stood behind the cheap plastic counter of a third-party customer service desk, wearing a terribly ill-fitting polyester vest uniform. He had gained weight. The boyish, blonde charm that had once granted him access to high society was gone. The smile was gone, replaced by the deep, weary eyes of someone working 60-hour weeks just to barely afford rent. His hairline was receding, his shoulders perpetually slumped in defeat. The angry businessman snatched the voucher from Liam's hand, muttered a curse, and stormed off. Liam sighed, rubbing his eyes in frustration. As he lowered his hand, his gaze met mine. He froze. I stood 20 feet away, clad in a bespoke Tom Ford suit, a gleaming Cartier watch on my wrist, radiating wealth and unassailable power. The contrast between us was jarring. For a fleeting second, I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes, a pathetic, desperate hope that maybe I would take pity. Maybe I would remember the man I once loved and pull him from the hole he dug for himself. I didn't smile, I didn't frown, I simply looked at him with the same detached coldness I'd afford a piece of terminal furniture. I had just turned away when Sebastian walked over, handing me a steaming latte. "Everything all right?" Sebastian asked, noticing the lingering stare from the customer service agent behind the counter. "Fine," I said, taking a sip, "just a ghost. Let's head to the lounge." Liam was a non-entity. As for my family, Maria, the former housekeeper who retired to Florida, still sends me letters, occasional updates, born of a morbid sense of loyalty. My parents divorced 6 months after the Connecticut estate auction. The stress of the bankruptcy shattered whatever fragile bond remained between them. Robert currently lives in a cheap extended-stay motel in New Jersey, trying to numb the humiliation with cheap whiskey and dodging calls from aggressive creditors. Caroline and Harper share a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in a noisy industrial section of Queens. Ironically, it's just 3 blocks from where I lived in my previous life. After Harper ruined my career, due to lack of funds, Harper never got her 4th or 5th reconstructive surgery. The scar tissue in her jaw has calcified, just as Dr. Eris warned it would. Her jaw remained stiffly fixed in a downward, paralyzed sneer, and her vocal cords had further degenerated into a continuous mechanical whisper. According to Maria, Harper never left the apartment. She had completely isolated herself from the world, wrapping herself in a black silk medical mask all day long. Her only connection to the outside world was running an anonymous TikTok account, where she posted cynical rants. She spoke of how the world was cruel and superficial, and how beautiful women were inherently evil. Her videos rarely garnered more than 10 views. She had been utterly forgotten by reality TV producers, the fashion industry, and her once high society friends. To make an impression, I sacrificed everything. I boarded the first-class cabin of a Boeing 777 and took a seat next to Sebastian. I leaned my head against the soft leather headrest, closed my eyes, and the engines began to hum, preparing for takeoff. In my first life, I died with a heart full of painful betrayal and unfulfilled potential, mourning a sister who mocked me as I bled. In this life, I chose a different path. I didn't wield a knife or push them off a cliff. I simply stopped playing the role of the safety net. I let them fall, as the plane left the runway, soaring above the rain clouds and into the bright, blinding sunlight. I knew I would never look down again. Karma doesn't always come in the form of a fiery explosion or a dramatic confession in a courtroom. Sometimes, karma is stepping aside and letting toxic people face the inevitable consequences of their vanity and greed. Camilla didn't have to destroy her sister and parents. After she stopped playing the scapegoat they assigned her, they destroyed themselves step by step. Let this story serve as a harsh warning. Protect your peace, safeguard your assets, and never throw yourself into the fire just to stay warm. Story 2. The day I found out I was pregnant, I immediately bought abortion pills. Just as I was about to take them, I heard my son's thoughts from my womb. "Mom, don't abort me. I can help you make a fortune." My dad is a super-rich tycoon who loves nothing more than chasing after women and being a devoted follower. I keep pursuing girls who are similar to my white moonlight and equally stubborn, showering them with endless gifts, only to have them disdainfully tossed into the trash. And I know exactly where those trash cans are. I convinced myself I had gone mad, hurriedly swallowing the pills with water. Hundreds of grams of gold, the latest smartphone, jewelry worth millions, and I gagged and spat the pills that had reached my throat into the trash can by my feet. Where? Tell me now. Wait a minute. I suddenly snapped back to reality. Since your dad is a super-rich tycoon, why don't I just say I'm pregnant with his child? Wouldn't that be reaping the benefits without lifting a finger? My son laughed at my foolishness. My dad is a super-rich man. Does he lack women around him? Stop watching those unrealistic short dramas where the domineering CEO falls in love with you. If you go over there now, pregnant, how can you prove it's definitely his? With just a little trick, I could be gone. Who knows? They might even label you as a gold digger and quietly get rid of you. So, We just need to take advantage of the situation to skim a little profit, and then we can rest. Easy, Mom, you need to learn to be content. The world of the wealthy isn't so easy to navigate. I nodded vigorously. Maybe my old son has been through this before, and this is a new account specifically to remind me even if I really make it into the wealthy circle, having money but no life to spend it is still not as good as having a life. Alright, I'll listen to you. I rubbed my hands together excitedly, ready to achieve financial freedom and reach the peak of life by picking up trash to prove his authenticity. My son specifically told me a location. I rode a shared bike and pedaled for an hour, finally arriving at the trash can in front of a mansion. Lifting the lid of the trash can, my eyes lit up. Truly a wealthy person. Even their trash can smells nice. There wasn't much messy garbage inside. Most of it was various gift boxes. I pulled a burlap sack from my chest. 2 whole sacks were filled with a clatter, tied them with rope onto the cart, and after huffing and puffing my way out of the luxury neighborhood, I finally managed to hail a taxi to haul it all home. Once home, I couldn't wait to start unwrapping the gift boxes. Hermes ties, Parisian suits, Chanel watches, Dior. After sorting through everything, I realized they were all men's belongings. Son, your father's first love is a man. The eldest son laughed heartily. Mom, don't get the wrong idea. Dad's first love is definitely a woman. These are all gifts that wealthy businessmen wanted to give to my dad to get to know him, but he threw them away. He is an ultra-wealthy man, for whom anything that can be bought with money holds no novelty. During this time, many other women tried to pursue him, but the gifts they sent as his wife would end up in the trash outside his door after a while. Every now and then, you can go pick up some trash. Hearing this, I couldn't stop grinning from ear to ear. You are truly my lucky star, my dear son. After tidying up, I opened the second-hand platform app and listed everything for sale at half price, brand new. It was just too cheap, and on top of that, it was practically like new, sold out in less than 20 minutes. Originally, there were only 300 left in the bank card. Now I have 10 million directly. I shook my head in amazement. These expensive items are really worth it. Even second-hand ones are snatched up. The quality is indeed quite good. My son lounged leisurely in my belly. Of course, that's my dad. When he gives gifts, the minimum is $1 million to start with. If he gave something too cheap and word got out, it would be extremely embarrassing. These people care most about their reputation. Pack and ship, just in case. I listened to my son and used a fake address for the shipping. I recorded the entire process on video to ensure authenticity, and upon arrival, they could inspect it as they pleased. It was absolutely genuine. After it was all over, I made a special trip to a physical store and bought the 20,000 yuan laptop I'd been eyeing for years. At the moment of checkout, my vanity reached an unprecedented height. A poor man suddenly becomes rich. I returned home, clutching my laptop, and cried out loud, "My son, do you know how your mother has endured all these years of hardship? Woo, why didn't you come sooner?" I wailed for over half an hour, only to be stopped by my son's single sentence. "If you keep crying, I won't let you pick up trash anymore." No way, picking up trash is my life's mission. I wiped away my tears and started searching online for information about the billionaire. There was very little. There's hardly any useful information at all. That's true, the super rich are usually quite discreet. Son, do you know what your dad looks like? Is he handsome? I don't know, probably quite handsome. You've slept with him, don't you know? I scratched my head, feeling a bit embarrassed. I was drunk at the time, and when I woke up, I found myself stark naked with a man lying next to me. I was so scared my soul nearly left my body. I didn't have the mood to see what he looked like, but he had a great figure. Mom, wipe your drool. I quickly grabbed a tissue to wipe the drool. My heart stirred with restless excitement. Maybe I really shouldn't. What if I could become a wealthy man's wife, with such a great figure? He must be good looking. I must have some advantages over other women when it comes to carrying a child, right? But my son's words snapped me back to reality in an instant. Put away your vanity, unless you want to die? All right. I reluctantly suppressed the foolish urge to become a wealthy man's wife, carrying 10 million in my arms. No, it's 9,980,000. In the past, I wouldn't have dared to dream of such a thing. I caressed my flat belly, smiling as I browsed Taobao and Pinduoduo. See it and buy it. it only cost 100,000 to clear out the shopping cart. So satisfying. This life is so thrilling that I dare not sleep, afraid that upon waking, it would all turn out to be a fleeting dream, just eating and sleeping, sleeping and eating. After nearly a week of aimless days, my quiet son suddenly spoke up. Hurry, it's Christmas Eve, Dad's making his move. I followed the address my son gave me, huffing and puffing as I rode a shared electric scooter. I decided I must get a driver's license and buy a car, otherwise, even if I could manage to take the trash back, though a sack might fool people, doing it too often would surely lead to running into someone familiar. Car insurance. I bought some wolf tooth potatoes and squatted across the street, eating while keeping an eye on the luxurious restaurant opposite, truly a five-star hotel. Even the facade is so extravagant. Is this facade made of gold? It looks like it could be pried off. Mom, calm down, Dad's right inside. When the girl comes out later, you quietly follow her. As soon as she throws it away, you quickly pick it up. I thought to myself, son, maybe I should just bring a sack and go through all the trash cans on this street. It's Christmas Eve right now, so there must be plenty of other people throwing out good trash too. Those things aren't worth much. What my dad gave me is jewelry worth tens of millions. Just one piece could sell for several million on the second-hand market. Those broken phones and cheap gold trinkets, all put together, aren't worth as much as this jewelry. Though it made sense, something still felt off. The girl came out shortly after, without a man by my side. I listened to my son and followed from a distance. I watched as the girl threw the items into the trash can. I immediately rushed over to rummage through the garbage. Just as I picked the gift box out of the trash can, another hand reached out to snatch it. I protectively pulled my hand back, but the other person still managed to grab hold of it. He frowned, trying to yank it away with force, and I glared at him even more fiercely. Let go, I saw it first, so it's mine. The sky was dim, and there was hardly anyone around. Had heard before that some people specifically wait for holidays like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. They rummage through trash bins to make money by collecting garbage. Other trash is one thing, but this is a necklace worth tens of millions. Gritting my teeth, I didn't wait for the other person to speak and bit down on their arm. As soon as the other person let go in pain, I immediately ran in the opposite direction, hopped on my shared electric scooter, and sped away. You think you can snatch it from me? Not a chance. Humph. Is your mom awesome or what? Awesome, awesome. I don't know why, but I always feel like my son is a bit absent-minded. But I was quickly drawn in by the men and women holding bouquets. I've heard before about people finding phones, and people finding gold. Why not give it a try? I put on my mask and threatened my son to tell me which trash can had things worth picking up. I picked up 3 of the latest model phones, several rings, including but not limited to diamond rings, gold rings, platinum rings, and even a fake one, which made me so angry I threw it right back into the trash. Ugh, what a scumbag, using a fake ring to propose. I also picked up a bunch of other random stuff. Looking at the wealth I had brought back, I slept holding them at night. My dreams were all about getting rich. When the police knocked on my door the next day, I finally understood why my son had told me not to pick up those things. I sat in the police station giving my statement. Hand over everything you picked up last night. Also wrote a 1,000-word self-criticism, promising to always turn in found items to the police in the future, of course, except for that necklace. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, and I kicked the stone at my feet with force. Bang! The pain made me clutch my foot and cry out. I squatted down, feeling utterly helpless and on the verge of tears. I worked so hard to gather these. Why do I have to give them back? Woo-woo. My son, for once, didn't retort but comforted me instead. Mom, you shouldn't touch the money of the poor. What does it mean when a gift is thrown away? I choked up. What does it mean? This explains that the woman doesn't like the man, yet the man forces his gifts on her. When he finds out they've been thrown away, naturally he wants to retrieve them. Whoever is caught on camera picking them up is in for trouble. My dad is different. He's a wealthy man. Money is no object to him. The things he gives away are worth millions or tens of millions. If they're thrown out, he doesn't care. I was feeling down. He continued to comfort me. What you've lost adds up to less than 50,000, but last night you found my dad's necklace. That's worth over 10 million. I wiped away my tears and was once again the confident mother of my little one. That's over 10 million. After all, the moment I got home, I searched for the original price of this necklace. When I saw the original price of 13 million, I gasped in shock. I hopped around on the spot for a long time, clutching the necklace box. My son screamed inside my belly, "Ah, Mom, be careful, be careful. Don't bounce me away." I quickly calmed down. The unpleasantness at the police station this morning vanished into thin air. Awesome. I put on a mask and went to the place where luxury goods are resold, sold at a 20% discount. The other party conducted a careful inspection and confirmed it was genuine. Goods were handed over, and money was received in return. I turned around and bought the latest foldable phone myself. Trifold. No matter how you fold it, it's impressive. Humph. Take it away if you want. I can still buy my own. For a long time after that, I followed my son's hints, wandering around trash bins in various places, collecting garbage. The bank cards all became VIP ladies. The clothes on my body were replaced with good fabric. I got my driver's license and bought a mini car. I signed up for yoga classes, found hobbies, and spent my free time enjoying my amateur interests. I hired a professional nutritionist to take care of my 3 meals a day. A nanny with a monthly salary of 30,000 takes care of my daily needs. I bought a small villa, fully furnished, and moved in right away. I've completely achieved financial freedom by collecting trash. As my belly grew bigger day by day, my son's voice grew increasingly excited. "I'm about to come out. I'm so happy." I was lying on the balcony sunbathing when suddenly I became very curious. "Son, are you a reincarnated soul?" "Yes, in your previous life." You heard the inner voice and rushed off anxiously to prove it to Dad. "Your father may have accepted you, but life in a wealthy family is extremely tough. Plus, he's very dissatisfied with you, even after you gave birth. He paid you no attention. Though the family has money, you can't spend a penny of it, and outsiders don't even know you're the lady of the house. You have no status, no recognition. Your life is truly pitiful. As for me, I'm the unwelcome illegitimate child, so in this lifetime, let's stay far away from wealthy families and live a happy life." My heart ached for her, turned sideways, let the sunlight fully bathe my belly. "All right, I'll listen to my son. Now that I have enough money, I plan to leave once my son is born and able to walk. I have a side business. Picking up trash isn't a job you can do forever. If I keep showing up at people's doorsteps, I'll get caught sooner or later." It wouldn't be good if they got angry and made me cough up all the money I'd earned before, but my son told me not to worry about these things. "Son, I didn't live my previous life in vain. I've learned everything I needed to learn. I'll handle the business venture. You just relax and enjoy yourself." I was moved to tears. I really have a lucky star baby. Although I say all this, I certainly can't really let a child handle such busy matters. To ensure my son is born healthy and quickly, just before giving birth, I specially hired a childbirth expert. Following her steps, I exercised daily and controlled my son's weight. On the day of delivery, we mother and son worked together, and the smooth birth was completed quickly in just half an hour. After crying, I carried my son back to the private ward, where he babbled for a long time. Seeing that I didn't respond, he gave up. I blinked and finally realized what was happening. "Son, I can't hear your thoughts anymore," he babbled a couple of times, struggling to control his little hand to pat his belly. "I understand." Hungry, I immediately rushed to make formula and feed him. I never expected to give birth to a competitive son who practices early and practices late, while other children roll over at 3 months, sit at 6, and crawl at 9. He was already walking steadily at 9 months and actively learning kindergarten knowledge. By the time he started kindergarten, he had already mastered the knowledge points of the 6th grade in elementary school, skipping grades directly. At 3 years old, I entered the 5th grade of elementary school. I was hailed as a child prodigy. One day, I returned home from shopping and found a strange man in the house. This man looked 80% like my son. My internal alarm bells are ringing. I cautiously observe the unfamiliar man. I only feel a tiny bit of familiarity. I searched my memory for a long time but couldn't figure out where I've seen him before. Later, it was concluded that he looked familiar because he resembled his son. The son sat upright across from the man. His expression was indifferent. Despite being only 3 years old, he already showed the outline of exceptional handsomeness. From the moment my son was born, I could tell he was definitely going to be a handsome man. He was born with a high nose bridge, pink lips, slender fingers, and his limbs were perfectly proportioned. to say the least. It's just that he always acts so mature and serious. After all, he has been reborn once, so it's only natural that he carries the maturity of an extra lifetime. But at this moment, I noticed that my son's face and demeanor were almost identical to those of the stranger. Even their sitting postures were similar, though the stranger appeared more natural, while my son seemed to be mimicking an adult, as children often do. I stood nearby, not daring to make a sound. My son glanced at me, then coldly swept his gaze over the man before him. "What are you doing here?" The man's posture grew even more languid, his entire being exuding a noble air that seemed to emanate from his very bones. "To bring you back to your roots." My heart skipped a beat. Does that mean the events of my past life are about to repeat themselves? I immediately rushed over and stood in front of my son, blocking him. "No, absolutely not. I absolutely will not allow you to take my son away. Besides, there's no paternity test. No blood test. How can you be sure this is your son? You must be mistaken. Please leave now, and I won't hold it against you." The man raised an eyebrow leisurely, with faces as similar as ours. "How could he not be my son? Back then, you slept with me. Don't you think you should take responsibility?" I gave a start. Responsible for what? In my past life, I was responsible for losing my life. In this life, I'd rather die than marry into a wealthy family. I forced myself to stay calm, determined to set an example for my son. "Sir, we've never met before. You can't just take my son because you look alike." He narrowed his eyes dangerously, scrutinizing me. "Are you sure he's not my son?" An overwhelming sense of authority washed over me, and I felt I was about to buckle under the pressure. The pressure from the wealthy family is truly overwhelming. I swallow hard. My son remains calm and collected, patting me with his chubby little hand. "Mom, I'll handle this." I immediately felt at ease. My son has always been a man of his own mind, and a real go-getter. Don't let his age fool you. He's already quite skilled at playing the stock market. I just lie back and watch the money roll in. I nodded fiercely. "If you don't want to, Mom will always stand by your side, and I'll protect you even if it costs me my life." He smiled, turning to look at the man's cold face. "Why did you come?" The man said calmly. "My name is Qin Yunshen, the current behind-the-scenes head of the Qin Group. The Qin family is the undisputed wealthiest, with assets exceeding trillions. You earn hundreds of millions per second. Even if you were to squander it, you couldn't run through it in 3 lifetimes. As for me, I'm 38 and still have no heir. You look like me and are so clever. I'm convinced you're my son. Our Qin family would never allow Qin blood to remain outside as an illegitimate child." Hearing that the assets couldn't be squandered in 3 lifetimes, my heart shamelessly stirred. But hearing that my son could enter a wealthy family, I immediately forced my heart not to waver. My son is the most important. Money and wealth are all illusions, the son said coldly. "I am a bastard now. Once it's made public, it will affect the reputation of your Qin family. Without a paternity test at this moment, I'm just a prodigy who happens to look like you. If you really need to, you can recognize me as your godson because of my intelligence. Just ensure the safety of my mother and me. As for acknowledging my roots, let's forget about it." In my heart, I cheered and encouraged my son, rallying for him. Upon hearing the refusal, Qin Yunshen showed no surprise in his eyes. Instead, his admiration grew. "I've looked into it. Your mother and I had a one-time encounter at a bar. Later, when I was picking up trash, I ran into her again. Every time she went to the hospital for a checkup, I could find out the results." My son interrupted coldly. "What are you trying to say?" He looked at me with a smile in his eyes. "I've known about you and your son all along. Back then, I thought Li Zhao would use the child to threaten me, but I never expected her not to come looking for me after giving birth. It seems Li Zhao isn't that kind of vain woman. I can accept her as my wife." My heart inexplicably began to soar. "Don't blame me, it's just that Qin Yunshen is an excessively handsome man. His eyes aren't pure black, but a light brown, with fox-like eyes. When he looks at me, they curve slightly, revealing a hint of amusement in his gaze. Coupled with this devastatingly handsome face, the impact of beauty, who can resist it? It's like the person you like smiling at you with that affectionate gaze they'd even give to a dog." My heart started pounding. Suddenly, all those male celebrities seemed utterly unimpressive. Whenever Qin Yunshen's face appeared, He was undoubtedly the most handsome man in the Chinese entertainment industry, but I'm on my son's side. I quickly lowered my head and kept silent. My son glanced at me and chuckled lightly. You're just looking for a decoration you can play with as you please, his words jolted me out of my wandering thoughts. I almost forgot. My son once said my previous life was utterly miserable. Hearing this, I straightened my back, determined never to be captivated by his beauty again. Then I looked up, beauty overload. My mind began to grow hazy. The last shred of reason made me lower my head, barely snapping back to reality. My son's voice was cold and detached. Since you've investigated us, you must have monitored my mother when she was pregnant with me. Then there's no need to say much more. We won't be entering your home. Just pretend we don't exist. We'll live our own lives. Mr. Chin, you can leave now. I have school this afternoon. Such mature words spoken in a childish voice created a stark contrast. Qin Yunshan found himself growing increasingly fond of the little one before him. I've said it before. The Qin family bloodline cannot be left outside. The little one stood up from the sofa, slightly tilting his head to look at Qin Yunshan across from him. He neither humbled himself nor showed arrogance. No one said anything, so who would know I am of the Qin family bloodline? Once I go in, no matter what happens to my mother or if she gets bullied, you won't care at all. As for me, even if I'm tormented, you won't pay any attention. You only love yourself. But it's because I'm clever and attracted you, making you think there's something to gain. But we don't care for it. We can earn money ourselves, though we may not earn as much as you. We are content. Please leave, Mr. Qin, or I will call the police and report you for trespassing. Qin Yunshan slightly furrowed his brows, relaxed his crossed long legs, stood up with his hands in his pockets, and turned to leave. Only after Qin Yunshan left did his son let out a sigh of relief. He looked at me seriously. Mom, no matter what tricks he pulls, don't fall for them. We cannot enter this wealthy family. Upon hearing this, I nodded vigorously. I always listened to my son's words. After sending my son to school, I watched him enter the campus. He's only 3 years old, and his height is very short compared to the elementary school students. A dedicated teacher escorted him into the classroom, so I felt very reassured. I turned my head and noticed a familiar gaze falling upon me. Instinctively, I wanted to run. He took a long stride and blocked my path. He wore a mask and a hat, fully covered. Only a pair of highly recognizable eyes were visible. Mr. Qin, blocking me is pointless. I listened to my son. Qin Yunshan raised an eyebrow. Talk. I don't want to. No matter how I tried to run, he blocked me completely. I'm not as clever or eloquent as my son. I could only follow him to the coffee shop across from the school he was treating, so I ordered the most expensive item. I elegantly took a sip of the most expensive coffee. It was indeed quite good. Since I stopped being a workhorse, I've rarely drunk coffee. When I'm tired, I sleep. When I wake up, I play. Who needs coffee to stay alert anymore? Putting down the coffee cup, I try to maintain my elegance. In the past 3 years, my overachieving son has planned various schedules for me. He made me follow his intense routine, which has cultivated my posture to be elegant at all times. Even as Qin Yunshan in front of me stares directly at me. Mr. Qin, what would you like to say? Qin Yunshan withdrew his gaze that had been sizing me up. Was it you who picked up the trash in front of my door before? My heart tightened, but I maintained my composure. What are you talking about, Mr. Qin? I don't understand. I played dumb and blinked. A faint curve lifted at the corner of Qin Yunshan's lips. I have surveillance there. You weren't wearing a mask at first, and later you wore one, but it didn't really help. 300 taels of silver are not buried here. I continued to play dumb, blinking at him. I don't understand what Mr. Qin is saying. He raised an eyebrow slightly. Liars tend to blink frequently. I immediately stopped blinking and just stared at him. He chuckled lightly. His laughter sounded so pleasant, especially the moment it spilled from between his lips. The trailing note carried a hint of seduction. Selling these second-hand items for profit is considered illegal acquisition of money, and I have evidence. I could sue you for tax evasion because you haven't paid your personal income tax. My face was covered in question marks. How could such a beautiful face utter words as venomous as a snake's? I pursed my red lips tightly, gritting my teeth. Mr. Qin, I don't know how to speak, nor do I understand how to speak properly. If you have any issues, you can talk to my son. Talking to me won't help. I listened to my son, and I absolutely will not marry into a wealthy family. At worst, you can report it, anyway, my son can handle it. Qin Yunshan smiled again. Do you trust him that much? I have a strange look in my eyes, isn't that obvious? If it weren't for my lucky son, could I have become a little rich woman? This man must be jealous because he doesn't have such a good son and wants to take him away from me. I immediately grabbed my bag. If there's anything, talk to my son. With that, I dashed back home in a flash. I let out a deep sigh of relief. That evening, I told my son about the situation, feeling extremely worried inside. What if that guy Qin Yunshan really reports us? Can we afford to pay back the money we're making now? My son looked at the screen full of red numbers and yawned. Not enough to cover it. We'd have to pay back at least several hundred million, right? I was so anxious I started pacing back and forth. After checking the stock market, my son started researching other things. I couldn't understand any of it, so I plopped down beside him and resigned myself, saying, if it's all lost, then it's all lost. You're so smart. We can just start over from the beginning. I just don't know if Qin Yunshan will keep pestering us. My son closed his laptop and concluded, he will definitely keep pestering. I slumped even further, my back bending another degree. What do we do now? Could it be that even after your rebirth, you still can't change the outcome? He laughed. It's already changed, Mom. Our lives now are much better than they were in our previous life. Plus, you're not clinging to him like you did in the past, which has already set us on a different path. Do you remember what I said when I was still in your belly? I shook my head. It's been too long. I've long forgotten. He patted the notebook. I placed the notebook on the computer desk and took his little hand to get out of bed. His childish voice said, my dad is a super rich tycoon. He wouldn't care about such a small amount of money at all. I'm a child prodigy now, very smart, and highly valued by both the school and the media. He insisted on recognizing me as part of the Qin family because my return would be of great help to the Qin family. If we report him, wouldn't that go against our original intention? Mom, just live your life normally, ignore him, and treat him like heir. I trust my son completely. Whatever my son says goes. I obediently follow the daily schedule he set for me. I wake up early to take him to school, then go practice dancing. Dancing is beneficial for my physical form. Then I noticed Qin Yunshan had appeared again. He was standing right at the door, staring straight at me. I remembered what my son said, to treat Qin Yunshan as if he were heir. He greeted me, but I ignored him. He spoke to me, and I pretended to be deaf. At noon, when I went to pick up my son from school, he was standing at the door, ringing the doorbell. Finally, I had security escort him away. It was really annoying that he kept ringing the doorbell. After finishing my classes in the afternoon, I went shopping to relieve the fatigue from a day of studying. After shopping for a while, I decided to get a new manicure. I had just sat down when I noticed Qin Yunshan sitting beside me. I rolled my eyes, decided to skip the manicure altogether, and turned to head home. As soon as I closed the door, the world felt incredibly quiet, yet there was always a faint, elusive gaze lingering on me. I quickly got up to check. It would have been better not to look. What I saw was truly horrifying. Qin Yunshan was right there in the neighboring villa. I'm really fed up. In the evening, I couldn't hold back and vented about the situation to my son. My son still said the same thing, treat him like heir. Since my son is in school and Qin Yunshan can't follow him there, he can only come to pester me. She tried to use maternal love to persuade my son to agree to enter the Qin family. Fine then, but I never expected Qin Yunshan to be as elusive as a ghost. He would suddenly appear out of nowhere for no reason. In the third year of being entangled, his expression began to turn strange. At first, he not only followed me but also started giving gifts. All kinds of expensive gifts were showered on me without a second thought. Initially, I was quite reserved. I refused them all. In the evening, my son said he could receive gifts, so I happily accepted them all. Each of these gifts is worth over 10 million. Why not take them when they're offered for free? Now I don't lack money either, and I still take out those gifts to wear from time to time, although I truly don't lack money. After all, it's my son's hard-earned money, so I can't bear to buy expensive gifts, but if it's from Qin Yunshan, then I can bear it. After a few rounds of this, I always feel the atmosphere is a bit strange, especially when Qin Yunshan looked at me. There was an expression in his eyes that I couldn't quite understand. I always felt I was a bit like those girls Qin Yunshan had once pursued, a stand-in for the white moonlight. Once a person develops strange perceptions, they themselves become strange, although Qin Yunshin was following. He always maintained a sense of propriety, plus, I'm naturally drawn to good looks, and sometimes I really can't resist the charm of such striking beauty. After having a few drinks with him, I thought, since we've slept together before, doing it again wouldn't be so bad, and so, Qin Yunshin and I ended up doing the unspeakable. Only when I woke up did I clearly realize the magnitude of my sin. I began to tremble with fear. I started avoiding Qin Yunshin. Qin Yunshin wore a deeply hurt expression. Why are you avoiding me? My heart was in turmoil, and I only said, we can't be together, with a sharp thud. I shut the door. On Saturday morning, my son yawned as he got up and, seeing me there, asked in confusion, didn't you go on a date with Qin Yunshin? My heart skipped a beat. What date? There's no such thing. My son said he won't marry into a wealthy family, and I absolutely won't marry into a wealthy family either. The son smiled. Mom, you're still keeping it from me. I know you've fallen for Qin Yunshin. If you want to go on a date, just go ahead. Just dating doesn't mean you have to marry into a wealthy family. That makes a bit of sense, especially since my son said so himself. My heart once again stirred with a shameful restlessness. However, why does it always feel a bit off? My son pushed me out. Go on, I still have things to do here. Don't disturb me while you're out on your date. Don't worry, Mom, your date with Qin Yunshin won't affect me. Whether we can return to the wealthy family isn't something your date can decide. Hearing this, I went on my date with Qin Yunshin with a clear conscience. Adult dating is, of course, a collision of hormones. It's just that this phase is too tempting to resist. Plus, the experience from sleeping together once before was too wonderful. It's been on my mind ever since. With my son's encouragement, I dragged him straight to the hotel. We had a wild time on the hotel bed for 3 days and 3 nights. Just seeing him made me want to devour him fiercely. Qin Yunshin was also incredibly capable, providing excellent service every time. Although there are nannies and nutritionists at home, it's really not appropriate to not go back for 3 days. I washed up and decided to go home for a while. Qin Yunshin wrapped his long arm around me, his eyes blazing with anger. I'll go with you later. I returned home feeling sore and exhausted, only to find the house unusually lively. 2 dignified and elegant elderly people had arrived. One of them even called my son, grandson. The topics they were discussing were far too profound for me to understand, but having 2 extra people in the house set off alarm bells in my mind. Who are you? Why are you in my home? My son paused, and I caught a flicker of guilt in his eyes. Mom, what are you doing back? Aren't you supposed to be out on a few more dates? I quickened my pace and hurriedly stepped in front of my son. What do you think you're doing? Trying to take by force? My son peeked out with his little head. Not exactly to that extent. Qin Yunshin nodded to the 2 elderly people. Dad, Mom. I took a look. The 2 elderly people did bear some resemblance to Qin Yunshin, especially the man, who seemed to share the same face as Qin Yunshin and my son. My heart sank as I saw Qin Yunshin's expression darken. You've been pestering me just so your parents could get close to my son, I thought. My heart ached fiercely, seeing my emotions growing more intense. Qin Yunshin quickly said, Zhao Zhao, calm down. It's really not what you think. I genuinely want to be with you. I glared coldly. Nonsense, don't think I'm a fool. You just see how clever my son is and want to use him. No one can force my son. If you dare try, we'll go down together. Qin Yunshin panicked. My son tugged at me. Mom, calm down. I calmed down and looked at him in confusion. Son, he patted me reassuringly. Mom, it's okay. I invited Grandpa and Grandma over. They didn't force me. I wanted to get close to them. To enter the Qin family on my own initiative, I crouched down, speaking cautiously. Son, tell me the truth. Did they threaten you using me? Don't worry. I'd rather end my own life than let them affect you. No one is more important than you. His son's eyes were red, deeply moved. He smiled and said, Really, no one is threatening me. All those things from your past life were just a facade. In truth, you entered the wealthy family and lived quite well, and Qin Yunshin was very fond of you. Dad's first love has always been you. But you never knew it. After entering the wealthy family, you became deeply unhappy, always feeling inadequate and trapped in a cycle of self-doubt. In the end, you heard hallucinations and jumped to your death. In his previous life, Dad never remarried. I was completely stunned. I don't understand what's happening right now. Qin Yunshan held me tightly, his eyes reddening again and again. Honey, I've also been reborn. You might not remember me, but I truly, truly love you. Do you remember that time you picked up the necklace? I couldn't hold back that day and wanted to see you, but you bit me and ran off. Later, our son told me I wasn't allowed to get close to you. I can finally stand before you with a clear conscience. My brain short-circuited, still trying to make sense of the current situation. This means both father and son have been reborn to save me. I looked at them in a daze, pushing Qin Yunshan's body away. Where's your white moonlight? Qin Yunshan gazed at me with deep affection. My white moonlight has always been you, from beginning to end. It took me a long time to understand after the explanation. After their rebirth, he could also hear their son's inner thoughts. After hearing them, he would act according to his son's inner thoughts. First, he let me pick up trash to earn money. Those second-hand items sold quickly because Qin Yunshan bought them all back. I suddenly understood, my eyes turning red. So that's why the other party asked for direct bank card payment. According to the software's mechanism, I would at least have to wait until the goods arrived before I could get the money. With money, my confidence would gradually grow. He started striving for excellence right after our son was born, partly because he was naturally intelligent, and partly to help me become better and better, becoming confident. That way, standing beside Qin Yunshan, I wouldn't constantly be mentally drained by internal struggles. No wonder I always felt our son's way of speaking was a bit odd. It's just like pushing me towards Qin Yunshan, but I can't quite put it into words. Plus, Qin Yunshan is also very well behaved, suddenly starting to show kindness. So that's how it was. It turns out both father and son are reborn, with the goal of saving me, who, in my previous life, ended my own life due to being overly sensitive and fragile. I held them and cried out loud. I felt relieved in my heart that the painful past life my son mentioned had never happened, and I was also happy that I could meet this father and son who loved me. After the misunderstanding was cleared up, I happily moved into the Qin family's villa. Every day is still about eating, drinking, and having fun. The only difference is that, because I'm intoxicated by Qin Yunshan's stunning beauty, I often drag him over for a good workout. As for my son, he went to study with his grandfather. He was already intelligent, and he had the memories of his previous life. According to Qin Yunshan, in this life, their son's achievements were even more remarkable than in the previous one. His future prospects are boundless. Let me indulge deeply in his tender embrace. I shyly clenched my fist and gave him a playful punch. He wrapped his arms around me and kissed me tenderly. Xiao Xiao, it's so good to see you again. I love you. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I am the foolish, gold digging, pretentious, and self-destructive female supporting character in the novel. Just before the grand finale, I went to the female lead, the White Moonlight, to ask for a breakup fee, only to be thrown into the sea and fed to the fish. Just when everyone thought the story should end after the male and female leads got married, my daughter, carrying my will, knocked on the door of the domineering CEO's house. Mom said when Yao Yao is about to starve to death, come find Dad. But don't disturb him at any other time. Uncle, are you my dad? Mom isn't coming home. Yao Yao has no food to eat. Yao Yao is about to starve to death. The soul drifted in the air, watching the domineering CEO face the little face that looked so much like his own, the fleeting heartache and closeness after the days. I knew I had bet right. White Moonlight heroine, are you ready to face your retribution? Uncle, it's okay if you don't want to be Yao Yao's dad. Yao Yao just wants a glass of water. Okay, Yao Yao is only 4 years old. Yao Yao doesn't drink much. Yao Yao is really going to starve to death. My daughter, following the instructions in my will, carefully and pitifully asking for a glass of water. This clever little thing even knows how to use puppy dog eyes to target the tycoon's soft spot. The pitiful gaze strikes right at the tycoon's heart, making his voice soften involuntarily. Good child, come in quickly. You must be starving. Right, he gently picked up his daughter and placed her on his lap, then instructed the butler, prepare a table of dishes, make them light, soft, and easy to digest for the child. With that, he opened a bottle of expensive iceberg snow water and brought it to his daughter's lips. Thirsty? Have some water. The daughter cautiously glanced at the white moonlight female lead standing beside her, then looked hesitantly at the domineering CEO. Her words caught in her throat. Speak exactly as my will states, Uncle. Yao Yao can just drink tap water. This looks very expensive. Mom said we shouldn't accept such expensive things from others. Before Lin Qingyu could say anything, sure enough, Shangguan Shui beside me couldn't hold back any longer, her tone turning sharp as she said, "How dare your mother say such a thing? She's nothing but a gold digger who only wants the most expensive things." My daughter's body shrank back violently, the little head buried itself in my chest, muffling its voice as it said, "Mommy is not that kind of bad person." Then, as instructed in my will, it spoke with a restrained sob in its voice, "Yao Yao doesn't want Mommy to be talked about like this. Yao Yao will leave right now," Mom said. "It's better to starve to death than to be insulted." With that, she fluttered her two short little legs, ready to jump down from Lin Qingyu's lap. Lin Qingyu firmly held her daughter's body, pulling her closer into her arms, and said coldly to Shangguan Shui, "Do you think it's appropriate to say such things in front of a child? You know to feed stray cats and dogs when you see them, let alone a living, breathing child." Not only was Shangguan Shui stunned, but even I, floating in the air, was left speechless. This was the one Lin Qingyu had been pining for half his life, his unattainable first love. During the time she was abroad, Lin Qingyu had been utterly despondent for 3 whole years, having searched for countless substitutes, yet still unable to let go of the lingering regret. Now, unexpectedly, because of the little baby in my arms, I have for the first time been harsh towards Shangguan Shui. I suddenly feel that not only did I bet correctly, but I even underestimated the power of blood ties. Through the air, I gently touched my daughter, who remained completely unaware. I can't contain the wild joy inside me. "My precious daughter, your good days are about to come, are you?" Shangguan Shui exclaimed in shock and anger. "You don't even know if she's your child, yet you're already favoring her like this. Who knows if she's that unclean woman's bastard child with someone else? Don't tell me you've been fooled by her again." Just then, Lin Qingyu made a call to the paternity testing center, arranged for an on-site paternity test, then picked up his daughter and walked towards the dining table, dropping a sentence without a trace of emotion. "She looks so much like me. I know she's my daughter even without the test. Xiaoxue, your cold-bloodedness today has left me somewhat disappointed." Shangguan Shui's expression froze on her face, stammering and unsure of what to say. She could only watch the backs of the father and daughter, stomping her foot in resentment. "I've lived for so long, and just recently died. This is the first time I've seen Shangguan Shui get the short end of the stick. In my lifetime, I served by Lin Qingyu's side for many years. I know his temperament and character best." Thus, the will left to his daughter was entirely composed of Lin Qingyu's vulnerabilities. Just like now, even though she was dizzy with hunger, she dared not indulge heartily at the dining table. She ate whatever Lin Qingyu served her. If she didn't pick up any dishes, she would only dare to swallow plain rice, because I had specifically written in my will, in bold and enlarged letters, "Dad likes polite and obedient little girls." Throughout the entire meal, Lin Qingyu's attitude toward Yao Yao was so gentle it was almost unbelievable, even making Shangguan Shui, who was sitting on the other side of the dining table, slam her chopsticks in displeasure. However, after the meal, when Yao Yao got down from the table, her behavior was somewhat unusual. Her pockets were bulging, and she kept her little hands tightly pressed against them, her body slightly hunched over, as if desperately trying to hide something. Even I couldn't see why Yao Yao was acting this way, when I heard Shangguan Shui's firm and sharp voice. "What are you doing? Stealing as soon as you arrive, just like your gold-digging mother, as expected, always coveting what belongs to others." With that, Shangguan Shui strode over to Yao Yao, grabbed her hand, and ordered the butler to search her. Yao Yao's hands were pinned behind her back, grimacing in pain. I was pacing anxiously nearby, watching my daughter's little face flush red with pain, yet utterly helpless. "Daddy, it hurts. Yao Yao didn't steal anything. Can you please tell the aunt not to hold me so tight? Yao Yao really hurts." Shangguan Shui shook her daughter's body angrily and said, "Stop calling him Dad all the time here. The paternity test results aren't even out yet. Besides, if you didn't steal anything, then what's hidden in your pocket?" The daughter shamefully kept her mouth tightly shut, her pleading gaze fixed on Lin Qingyu, yet Lin Qingyu also raised a skeptical eyebrow as he looked at Yao Yao, seeming quite displeased with her act of hiding something in her pocket. If you have something, just take it out obediently. Children should be honest, or they'll learn bad habits when they grow up. After a long pause, his tone turned somewhat sarcastic, just like your mother. Always chasing profit and obsessed with vanity. I stood by, seething with anger. Lin Qingyu was always like this. Whenever his beloved was around, he indiscriminately listened to only one side of the story. From afar, I heard my father say this, so I no longer sought help, stubbornly biting my lower lip and refusing to say a word, allowing the butler to search me. The butler pulled out greasy pork ribs and chicken wings from Yao Yao's pocket, spreading them out before Lin Qingyu, leaving everyone in the room utterly bewildered. Yao Yao, why did you put food in your pocket? Lin Qingyu finally softened her tone, crouching down to ask Yao Yao. Tears welled up in Yao Yao's eyes, as if having suffered the greatest injustice. With a voice choked with tears, Moms will said that Dad has already married another aunt and will have his own children in the future, so Yao Yao can't trouble Dad for too long. But Yao Yao is so scared that she won't be able to eat such delicious food again in the future. So I wanted to take just a little bit of meat with me. Dad, Yao Yao was wrong. Yao Yao shouldn't have taken something that doesn't belong to her. Yao Yao will leave now. Dad, please don't hate Yao Yao. Okay. The entire villa was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Everyone cast disapproving glances at Shengguan Shui. Even Lin Qingyu glanced at Shengguan Shui with a hint of dissatisfaction, then immediately picked up his daughter and said softly, how could you never eat it again? Yao Yao will be living with Daddy. Daddy will have someone make it for you every day from now on. Okay. Yao Yao, with tears welling up in her eyes, cautiously glanced at Shengguan Shui. No one will have any objections. Yao Yao, you can stay here with peace of mind. Lin Qingyu, with a rare firmness in his attitude, subtly warned Shengguan Shui. Xiao Shui, you won't have any objections, right? I saw Shengguan Shui force a smile that was uglier than crying. Of course. I cast an admiring glance at Yao Yao, unable to contain my immense pride. Truly, my daughter, your skills are truly remarkable. I thought it would take several rounds of persuasion to move in, but Yao Yao managed to defeat the enemy in a single move. Dad, do you like Mom? In the evening, when Lin Qingyu was telling a story to lull Yao Yao to sleep, Yao Yao, half asleep, tugged at the corner of Lin Qingyu's clothes and asked groggily, only to hear Lin Qingyu snort coldly, like, humph. I'm nothing but disappointed in her, your mother, Yao Yao. Just remember, you must not be as greedy as your mother, otherwise, even if someone truly cares for you, they will eventually leave you. I drifted nearby, and even without a physical body, I felt as if I had been struck on the head with a heavy blow. My heart felt heavy, and my nose tingled with a sour ache. Yao Yao let out an almost imperceptible sigh. Mom also said she was too greedy, falling in love with someone she shouldn't have. Lin Qingyu's eyes trembled fiercely for a moment, staring at Yao Yao, before finally speaking coldly after a long pause. Yao Yao, your mother only loves money, she doesn't love anyone. The wandering spirit floating beside the father and daughter trembled at that moment. I had considered that Lin Qingyu might not like me, but I never imagined he would despise me so much. Daddy, what is money? Is it what those very fierce uncles want when they come to my house every day to smash the door? Lin Qingyu instantly straightened his back, his eyes wide open, seemingly somewhat shocked. Smash the door? Yao Yao, what are you talking about? Yao Yao was already sound asleep, leaving Lin Qingyu alone to ponder in the darkness. Lin Qingyu tiptoed out of the bedroom, quietly summoned his assistant, Lin, and instructed him to investigate all my bank accounts and whereabouts from before my death. In the darkness, he gazed at the distant door, and uttered a sentence so faint it was almost inaudible. Su Qingyan, how many more secrets are you still hiding from me? Inside the room, Yao Yao opened her bright, sparkling eyes wide, looking at the moon outside the window. She said, Mom, did Yao Yao do the right thing? Mom, Yao Yao misses you so much. My heart ached with a sharp, throbbing pain. She is still so young. If it weren't for Shengguan Shui leaving me no way out, how could I have dragged my daughter into this mess? The next day, Assistant Lin uncovered the massive gambling debts I had incurred before my death, which were actually my brother's debts from the casino. He wrote my name on the IOU, and then he vanished. After that, those creditors harassed me every single day, smashing my home until there wasn't a single piece of furniture left worth looking at. Why did she never tell me about any of this? Don't I give her a large sum of money every month? How can she still be living like this? How much money does it take to fill this bottomless pit of hers? In the end, it's just her greed. She even goes gambling. Lin Qingyu roared in fury. I only heard Yao Yao weakly saying from the side, Daddy, this is Uncle's debt. Uncle disappeared, so Mommy has to pay it back. Daddy, Mommy is very, very poor, but she's trying hard to pay it back. Please don't be angry with her, okay? Lin Qingyu widened his eyes in shock, his voice rising an octave. Very poor. I have someone send her over 500,000 yuan in living expenses every month. She even asks me for 2 or 3,000 from time to time, and even schemes the difference from the grocery money meant for the servants. How could she possibly be short of money? As he spoke, as if he had thought of something, his expression turned gloomy. Could it be that she's keeping some shady man on the side? Fine, this gold-digging, foolish woman, starving me and her own daughter, while keeping some shady men on the outside. That gambling debt might not even be her brother's. With that, he slammed the table with a bang. Fuming, he paced back and forth by the window, hands clasped behind his back, breathing heavily. Just then, Assistant Lin cautiously spoke up. President Lin, all of Miss Su's accounts show no large transfers exceeding 5,000 yuan. Where did you transfer the money to? Lin Qingyu's body stiffened, speaking with a mix of confusion and impatience. How is that possible? Ever since Xiaoxue came back, I've had her transfer 500,000 to Su Qingyan every month. At that moment, Lin Qingyu suddenly fell silent. As if she had figured something out, her gaze icy and terrifying. Yao Yao spoke up at that moment. Dad, I remember that day Mom went out after receiving a call from someone called Aunt Xiaoxue, and then Mom never came home again. They all say Mom jumped into the sea, but Mom was afraid of water. How could she go swimming in the sea? Lin Qingyu's face darkened completely as he coldly instructed Assistant Lin to go and invite Shengguan Shui. At that moment, the director of the appraisal center called, congratulating Lin Qingyu on having a biological daughter. Lin Qingyu's tense expression finally softened a little as she picked up Yao Yao and gave her a kiss. However, Shengguan Shui rushed in with a document in hand and said to Yao Yao with a smug and malicious tone, the paternity test results are out. You little bastard aren't even Yu's daughter. Assistant Lin, get this filthy child out of here right now. She completely failed to notice Lin Qingyu's livid expression and the awkward look on Assistant Lin's face. Is that so, Xiaoxue? This is Lin Qingyu's signal of anger. Yao Yao is the precious treasure I carried for 10 months and gave birth to with great effort. I have only had Lin Qingyu as my man in this lifetime. How could she not be his child? Before her eyes, Yao Yao was forcibly lifted up by the people brought by Shengguan Shui. Shengguan Shui slapped the documents onto Yao Yao's face with a sharp crack. I knew it. How could you possibly have a child with that lowly woman? You beggar must have been incited by that gold digger to ruin our wedding. Disgusting woman, even after being thrown into the sea, you still won't settle down. Someone, take this little beggar and throw her at the orphanage gate. Let her fend for herself. At that moment, Lin Qingyu keenly caught the loophole in Shengguan Shui's words and shot a sharp glance at her as he asked, what does it mean to be thrown into the sea? Didn't you tell me that Su Qingyan committed suicide by jumping into the sea? At that very moment, Lin Qingyu's father, the richest man in City A, pushed the door open with a hearty laugh. You, old Liang from the appraisal center called me and said I have a little granddaughter. Great, that's wonderful. Your mother and I were both worried that you might have oligospermia, and we didn't know what to do about having children in the future. Quick, let me see my precious granddaughter. Lin Qingyu's anger shot out from the depths of his eyes. He stared fixedly at Shengguan Shui, who was holding the appraisal results in front of him, his gaze as if it could burn her to ashes. I just got the call too, and I've already thanked Uncle Liang. Lin Qingyu gritted his teeth and asked, Shengguan Shui, where did you get the appraisal results in your hand? Shengguan Shui's expression instantly turned panicked. She dismissed the person who had brought her there. I was in a hurry for the results, so I asked my classmate to expedite it. Maybe there's been a mistake. As she spoke, Shengguan Shui quickly hid the document folder behind her back. Lin Qingyu's mother, an elegant and dignified lady, instantly switched to a sweet, high-pitched voice upon seeing Yao Yao. "Old Lin, come quick and look at our granddaughter. It's exactly like when you used to dress up in girls' clothes as a child. Come here, child, let grandma give you a hug." My heart was in my throat. I've seen the many obstacles set by Lin Qingyu's mother firsthand. Her face is always gentle, her demeanor always kind, yet deep down, she coldly scrutinizes everything, watching Yao Yao, completely unsuspecting, about to throw herself forward. I wish I could shove the will right in her face and make her review it thoroughly. Only the sound of Yao Yao's tender little hand holding the lady's hand could be heard, as she smiled sweetly. "Grandma, Yao Yao is very heavy. Grandma will get tired from carrying me. When Yao Yao grows up, I'll carry grandma on my back." "Okay." I watched helplessly as the once haughty and arrogant lady who had stood before me, it was as if the ice in her eyes had melted, turning warm and soft. Even shedding a tear, she pulled Yao Yao into her arms, pressing her face tightly against Yao Yao's little belly and kept murmuring, "What a good child, such a good child." I was completely stunned on the side, watching Yao Yao remain calm and composed, even giving Shangguan Shui a slight, smug eyebrow raise. I suddenly began to wonder if I might have given birth to a little prodigy. "Mom, she's just a bastard child. If you treat her so kindly, how will you ever face your legitimate grandson when he's born?" On the other hand, Shangguan Shui, provoked by Yao Yao, blurted out without thinking, "I'm telling you, if you dare let that bastard through the door, I'll divorce Lin Qingyu." Shangguan Shui held her head high, looking utterly arrogant. She still seemed to believe she was the same white moonlight who had Lin Qingyu wrapped around her finger, not at all noticing Lin Qingyu's tightly clenched fists at this moment, nor the flicker of ruthlessness in the eyes of the billionaire couple. "Have you made up your mind? You want a divorce?" Not only did Lin Qingyu not show the panic she had imagined, instead, he looked at her with a cold, direct gaze, his expression inscrutable. Shangguan Shui quickly realized something was off and immediately changed her tone. "If you don't want a divorce, then transfer all your assets to my name. Then I'll agree to let this illegitimate daughter enter the family. Otherwise, don't even think about me giving your Lin family a proper grandson. Lin Qingyu, you know you have oligospermia, and I happen to be highly fertile. If I'm unwilling, you can forget about having any children for the rest of your life." As she spoke, it seemed she felt the initiative had returned to her hands once more, gradually becoming relaxed and arrogant, with arms crossed in front of the chest. Silently locking eyes with Lin Qingyu, "Shangguan Shui, you've embezzled so much of my money and still want all the assets. I'm a bit confused now, between you and Su Qingyan, who is the real gold digger." Shangguan Shui's expression instantly turned flustered, yet she still tried to cover it up. What embezzlement? What are you talking about? I don't understand. How dare you compare me to that gold-digging bitch? What do you mean?" Shangguan Shui, flushed with anger and embarrassment, sprang to her feet and headed for the door, but out of the corner of her eye, she saw Lin Qingyu sitting firmly in his chair, with no intention whatsoever of getting up to chase after her. She stood still again, unnaturally, hugging her arms with a guilty conscience. "Xiao Xue, I'm asking you one last time. Did you send that money to Su Qingyan on time?" I did." What do you mean by that? We're both married, and you still suspect me over some dead bitch. Do you really not want this marriage anymore?" Shangguan Shui resorted to her old tricks again, trying to cover up the truth with her unreasonable tantrums, but Lin Qingyu was no longer fooled. He immediately instructed Assistant Lin to investigate Shangguan Shui's account. Within minutes, several transaction statements were placed before Lin Qingyu. He clenched his fists, trembling violently with rage. Finally unable to contain his anger, he slammed the desk hard. "Shangguan Shui, you transferred all the living expenses I gave Su Qingyan every month into your own account. Are you treating me like a dog to play with?" Shangguan Shui didn't bother pretending anymore and retorted righteously. "That's right, I didn't give it to her. We were already engaged. Your money is my money. Why should I give money to some random woman?" "Lin Qingyu, don't you think you're being a bit too greedy? Isn't having me enough? You still want to string along other women?" Lin Qingyu and the billionaire couple had never been subjected to such humiliation before. At this moment, the three of them trembled with rage. Yet their upbringing prevented them from uttering a single word. Yao Yao's eyes darted around, and she said in a sweet, childish voice, "I remember now. When Mom took me to deliver takeout, I saw Aunt Xiaoxue. Huh, that's so strange. The naked uncle next to Auntie back then wasn't Daddy. As she spoke, she seemed to remember something and quickly covered her mouth. Oh no, Moms will said we must never mention this matter. The atmosphere instantly dropped to freezing point. Even I, floating in the air, couldn't help but hold my breath, yet deep down, I felt so exhilarated that I was at a loss for words. My precious daughter, she really knows how to play the game. I made it clear in my will that this matter must be revealed at the right moment. Yao Yao just said it with sparkling eyes. Her method is countless times more clever than what I taught. Ah! Shangguan Shui couldn't stop screaming. She lunged forward, trying to strangle Yao Yao, gnashing her teeth. She cursed, "You little bitch, how dare you slander me? I'll strangle you to death." Slap, a crisp slap echoed through the air. It was Lin Qingyu's mother who had struck. Yao Yao turned and threw herself into the arms of the wealthiest man present. The elegant lady gracefully clapped her hands and said to Lin Qingyu, "Son, we have never interfered in your affairs, but today, I can't help myself. There are some things you should know now." With that, she pulled a document folder from her bag and tossed it in front of Lin Qingyu. Inside the folder, a corner of a photograph peeked out, and when Shangguan Shui caught sight of it, her face turned pale with shock. He lunged forward to snatch it away, but was firmly restrained by assistant Lin. Lin Qingyu took the file bag and flipped through the photos inside, his expression growing darker with each one. Without even looking, I knew it was Shangguan Shui's dark history from her years abroad. Back when I was delivering takeout, I happened to see Shangguan Shui with a foreigner, which made me suspicious. So I mobilized all my resources to investigate Shangguan Shui. After a great deal of effort, all I managed to uncover was that Shangguan Shui had undergone several abortions. At that time, I only had 2 yuan left in my bank card, and Yao Yao was so hungry that she could only drink tap water, and I haven't been in touch with Lin Qingyu for a long time, so I mustered up the courage to ask Shangguan Shui out, hoping she would buy the clues I had with money. Who would have thought she would throw me into the sea to destroy the evidence and cover up the crime? Fortunately, I had the foresight before heading out to the meeting and sent a backup of the evidence in my possession to the billionaire's family by express delivery. The resources at a wealthy woman's disposal are truly more formidable than those of ordinary people, revealing all the men she had been with and how many times she had been pregnant. Every explicit photo taken with those foreigners has been thoroughly investigated. Fertile physique. Lin Qingyu's hands trembled with anger. Unable to hold on to the document folder, having been pregnant so many times, "You really are fertile. No wonder you kept refusing my visits, saying that seeing me would make you want to come back home. It was all a lie, wasn't it, Shangguan Shui? Do you think it's fun to play with me?" Lin Qingyu's eyes were red with anger at this moment, her lips trembling as she gasped and questioned furiously. Just as Shangguan Shui was about to open her mouth to defend herself, the noblewoman threw out another stack of documents. "Originally, you married into the family and were supposed to live a peaceful life. I could have let you go for a you's sake, but you actually set your sights on our company." The document clearly showed Shangguan Shui transferring assets and selling off the Lin family's antiques, even evidence of transferring company funds from Lin Qingyu's company. "I came today not just to see my granddaughter. You must divorce this troublemaker," the noblewoman spoke coldly, issuing an ultimatum. Lin Qingyu's hand clutching the document bag was trembling like a sieve. He stared fixedly at Shangguan Shui. By then, that person had long lost the arrogance of the past. In a state of panic, she looked at Lin Qingyu with a pitiful expression, eyes filled with remorse. You, since I married you, it means I love you. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Okay, I'll turn over a new leaf from now on. Let's have a child and live a good life together. Okay, I'll never be foolish again." Yao Yao suddenly jumped out of the arms of the richest man and ran off with quick, light steps. In no time, she returned with a pink envelope, struggling to lift it high, wanting to hand it to Lin Qingyu. Upon seeing the envelope, Shangguan Shui struggled with great effort to get up. While struggling, she also roared and cursed, "You little brat, that's my thing. How did that dead mother of yours teach you? How dare you go through my things without permission? Give it back." Yao Yao blinked her eyes innocently. "Auntie, weren't you apologizing to Dad? I saw you writing for a long time last night, smiling as you wrote. Isn't this meant for Dad?" Lin Qingyu's face turned ashen as he opened the envelope. The more he read, the more violently his body trembled. I drifted closer and took a brief glance. My face instantly flushed red, even feeling somewhat feverish. The explicit profanity was too much to bear. And it was written to a foreigner named Eric, and it even mentioned that once Sheng Guanshui had raised enough money here, she would elope with him. Slap, a glass shattered on the floor as Lin Qingyu completely lost control, letting out a furious roar. Sheng Guanshui, you wretched woman. With that, she pounced and straddled her. The billionaire couple covered Yao Yao's eyes and led her out, and upon leaving, they thoughtfully locked the door from the outside. They said to Yao Yao, don't be afraid, Yao Yao, Dad just needs to vent his anger, and then he'll be fine. This aunt won't bully you anymore. Yao Yao, can you feel at ease and stay with Dad from now on? She just lowered her head in a distant, lost manner and even squeezed out a few tears. If only Mom were here too, Grandma, Grandpa, if only Aunt Xiaoxua hadn't called Mom out that day. Will Mom no longer go swimming in the sea? Sure enough, the whole family was only concerned with their own affairs, completely forgetting the suspicious circumstances of my death. It was only when Yao Yao brought it up that the billionaire couple finally realized. Send someone to investigate the cause of my death. They found a surveillance camera at the entrance of a villa not far from the seaside, which clearly recorded how I was knocked unconscious by Sheng Guanshui and her foreign boyfriend and thrown into the sea. The soul seems much lighter now. Looking down, I found myself becoming even more transparent. My obsession has been resolved, and my daughter has found a good home. It seems I should go now. When Lin Qingyu saw the surveillance footage, tears welled up in his eyes instantly. Yao Yao thoughtfully took a handkerchief from her pocket, gently wiping them for him, and said as she wiped, Daddy, don't cry. Mommy said she loves seeing you smile the most. I floated nearby, giving my daughter a thumbs up. This girl has already mastered my green tea skills to perfection. Now she can even tell lies with her eyes wide open. Lin Qingyu forced a smile that was uglier than crying. Yao Yao, don't worry. Daddy will definitely avenge Mommy. Okay. Just then, Assistant Lin ran over and said to Lin Qingyu, Sheng Guanshui refuses to sign the divorce papers. She said, Yao Yao has already lost one mother. She can't lose another. She wants to go home and live a peaceful life as a family of three. Lin Qingyu showed not a trace of emotion, remained silent for a long moment, then suddenly said, all right, then sign for bail. I was about to burst out in anger, ready to call Lin Qingyu a shameless, love-struck fool, when I saw him open his phone and order a massive dog crate. Suddenly, I began to sense something. Although Lin Qingyu was an upright person, he was truly vindictive, never forgetting the slightest grievance and always seeking revenge. Sure enough, on the very first day Sheng Guanshui returned to the Lin family villa, she was locked in a dog cage. All she could see was Lin Qingyu crouching beside the cage. His expression was dark and inscrutable, his tone sinister as he said, you don't want to go to prison. Very well, I'll personally craft a cage for you. With that, he gave the order to strip Sheng Guanshui naked. She was submerged into the bathtub not far away, and only when she was nearly suffocating was she leisurely pulled out, and after catching her breath, she was shoved into the icy water. Ah you, please, spare me. It's so cold. I'm terrified. Sheng Guanshui pleaded desperately, clutching Lin Qingyu's pant leg tightly. When you threw Su Qingyan into the sea, did you ever think she was cold too, that she was terrified too? You killed the woman who truly cared for me. You killed my daughter's mother. I suddenly feel that simply sending you to prison is letting you off too easily. With that, he hung her from the roof beam, whip in hand, with a large bucket of chilly water by his side. Sheng Guanshui's eyes instantly widened, and her screams echoed one after another. I hurriedly floated upstairs and saw Yao Yao sitting in the lady's arms, wearing headphones and diligently studying English. I let out a long sigh of relief when suddenly the whole world spun around me, and a powerful force seemed to be trying to pull me away. I know, it's time for me to disappear. I leaned in and kissed Yao Yao's soft, tender little cheek. Yao Yao seemed to sense it. Suddenly, she looked up and called out in a daze. Mom, she said, staring fixedly in the direction where I disappeared. After a long while, the noble woman asked with some confusion, Yao Yao, what did you say? She just shook her head from afar and raised a sweet smile to say to her, Mom gave me a kiss. I miss her so much. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.